This is where it started, at Idlewild, New York City's international airport. A little while ago, I took my first trip to Germany, and like nearly all tourists, I was armed with a camera. I must admit I'm not an expert. Some of the shots came out, and their planes fly the overseas route every day. Here's one of their giant American-built four-engine DC-6s preparing to take off once again for overseas. SAS flies you from New York, USA to Hamburg, Germany, 3,000 miles away in less than a day. And inside the plane, you hardly realize you're moving. All you do is relax on the foam rubber lounge chairs and be waited on. Lunch is something to look forward to. It's a Scandinavian treat, a smorgasbord with piping hot dishes, beer and schnapps. These beautifully appointed planes have more comfort than home ever had. While you rest, you're being carried through the air at a speed of about 5 miles a minute. First in Europe is Prestwick, Scotland. SAS not only connects New York directly with Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, and Germany, but from these central points, it branches out to the major cities in other parts of Europe, as well as to far-flung corners of Asia, Africa, and South America. On this particular trip, we flew directly from New York to Hamburg. In an unexpectedly short time, we started coming in over Hamburg, getting ready to land. This is Hamburg, on the banks of the Elbe. In the 14th and 15th centuries, it was the most powerful member of the ancient Hanseatic League of merchant cities. It is today Germany's largest city, and still its greatest seaport. Its landscape is unique in character, built as it is around the lovely Alster Lake. The heart of Hamburg is its harbor, situated on the Elbe, Germany's most navigable river. To this port come ships of all nations, great ocean liners, low-hulled black tankers, rusty sea-stained freighters, and trim white pleasure boats. Close by is the ancient city of, a perfect example of early German architecture. Parts of the city hall date back to about 1220. Even earlier, in 1173, Henry the Lion laid the foundation of Lubeck's Romanesque Cathedral. Not far from Lubeck is one of Germany's favorite holiday spots, Travemunde, a Baltic resort located at the mouth of the Trave River. Travemunde's casino is noted throughout Europe. I found you could lose your shirt there just as quickly and effectively as Monte Carlo. It's fun if you can afford it. hotels and restaurants here offer superlative service in lovely surroundings, something that everyone can afford. How's that for a bunch of healthy-looking towheads? The beaches follow the Trava River down to the Baltic Sea, providing plenty of room for everybody, no crowds to battle, and the bathing is perfect. Germany's highways, called autobahns, are famous the world over. From Lubeck, we start traveling toward Dusseldorf, the capital of Westphalia, and cross the industrial Ruhr section. At Dusseldorf, we'll start our steamship journey to the romance land of Germany, to the Rhineland of blue waters and towering cliffs, ancient castles high upon hills, historical pageants and merry festivals. This map shows you the route I took. It'll give you an idea of the geographical locations of the places I visited, which you'll be seeing on the screen. My first objective was Dusseldorf. So from Hamburg, I drove down to Bremen, then through Feld and Dortmund to join the Rhine at Dusseldorf. As you'll see in more detail later, I went down the Rhine to Cologne and Bonn and joined the Moselle River at Koblenz. Here on the outskirts of the garden city of Dusseldorf, we start our Rhineland cruise. A few hours later, we see the towering, majestic Cathedral of Cologne. Next, Bonn, 2,000-year-old city that has seen the rise and fall of empires and the life and death of genius. Here were crowned two emperors of the Holy Roman Empire, Frederick the Handsome and Charles IV. And in Bonn it was that Beethoven was born. Across the fabled Rhine rise the seven mountains, the Siebengebirge, so famous in legend. Now we're approaching Koblenz, the next city on the romantic road and one of the tourist centers of the Rhine. The wine city had its beginnings 9 years before Christ as the Roman castle of Confluentes. From this point onward, the Rhine Valley begins to grow narrower. At Koblenz, we come to the junction of the Rhine and the Moselle, and we enter the wine district. If you take this trip along the Rhine, you ought to detour briefly up the Moselle River along its vine-covered banks to Cochem, the heart of the wine country and home of the famous Moselle wines. In the fall, you'll see the harvesting of sun-soaked grapes, rich grapes for delicate, dry wines. This Moselle wine district stretches from Koblenz to beyond Trier, the old town of the Romans. Harvesting grapes might seem like a pleasant job, but it's back-breaking work. Basket after basket must be carried to the great vats. You will undoubtedly have your own preference when it comes to sampling wines, but there won't be any lack of choice. There are more than 100 different types of grapevines from Cologne up the Rhine to Lake Constance, quite apart from the wines from the Palatinate, from Baden, and the mountain road. Again the Rhine, and here, where the valley narrows and the banks grow steeper, we start gliding through an ancient fairy tale land. One massive castle after another in cliffs, castle ruins lying in terror cities. Cities, some of them that date back to the time of Charlemagne. Here are the originals of those fabled names: the castle of the hostile brothers, Liebenstein, the treacherous Lorelei Rock, Castle Gutenfels, St. Goar, and still more castles and ancient landmarks, too many to keep track of or try to identify. Just before leaving the Rhine, you pass the little town of Kaub, where the river cuts around the ancient castle Pfalz, a former toll station built on a small island in the middle of the river. Leaving the Rhine and traveling inland, you might visit the university town of Marburg, standing high on a steep hill. According to its history, Marburg is, first of all, an intellectual town. Philip the Magnanimous founded the first Protestant university in Germany at Marburg more than 400 years ago. But Marburg today is just as much a resort town, a modern resort town in the center of the fertile Hessian countryside, whose inhabitants still wear the traditional costumes. Next on my itinerary was the Black Forest region, which is shared by the two territories of Württemberg and Baden. This is the sort of pastoral scene you'll see all over Germany. It's not confined to this one particular area. In fact, this is perhaps the most typical German scene I could show you. The people on the land, the farmer and his horses reaping the golden crops, the healthy, friendly faces of the country dwellers. In the Black Forest province of Baden, you might visit Gegenbach. If you're lucky, you'll be on hand to see one of their colorful festivals, so dear to the hearts of people throughout Germany. In the summertime, there are festivals from one end of Germany to the other. They're always based on some historical event, usually an amusing incident with a happy ending, and are celebrated every year with pageantry and dancing. But we'll leave Gegenbach to its celebrating, for it's summertime in Germany and there are other festivals to see. Behind the bastioned walls and towers of Rothenburg, another celebration is at its height. Every year, the historical pageant Der Meistertrunk, the Master Drink, is presented in the town hall, and as in days of old, the market square serves as the scene for the Dance of the Shepherds. The story goes that during the 30 Years' War, the town of Rothenburg capitulated after fierce resistance to the Swedish warrior Tilly, who immediately ordered that the city councilors be put to death. However, after drinking a celebratory glass of wine, Tilly mellowed and promising to pardon the doomed men if one of the aldermen could succeed in emptying the imperial wine goblet in one draught. Burgomaster Nusch took up the challenge and the goblet and saved the councilors. And another characteristic Rhineland holiday is the Bakers' Festival in the town of Andernach. This observance of ancient country customs commemorates the historic occasion when the bakers of Andernach prevented the capture of the town by an invading army from nearby Linz. The bakers manned the city walls and poured flour down on the surprised invaders, blinding, confusing, and finally routing them. The bakers' antics in the festival are followed by the traditional annual soccer game between the bakers and the chimney sweeps. It's played without much professional skill, but with a great deal of enjoyment. On the second half of my trip, I went to southern Germany to see the lakes and the Alps, to visit beautiful Bavaria and some of its historical old towns. Leaving the Black Forest region, I traveled first to Lake Constance and its island of Lindau. Then to Füssen and Garmisch-Partenkirchen. Next over Ammergau and Bad Reichenahll and Berchtesgaden on the Königssee. Through Chiemsee to my final destination, Munich. Lake Constance, certainly one of the most beautiful lakes in all Europe. Like a great inland sea, it lies between Switzerland and Germany, with the Austrian Vorarlberg to the east. And on the banks, in a perfect setting, you'll find a great number of excellently run hotels and inns. Perfect climate and rich soil combine to produce abundant fruits in this area and wines rich in flavor. You should try the local wine. It's rich, yet mild, and goes well with Lake Constance trout. And, of course, there are richer dishes for dessert. Built on a small island in Lake Constance is Lindau, a medieval town which is joined to the mainland by a railroad bridge and also one for pedestrians and cars. Tourists, however, will most likely agree that the best way to get there is by boat. The small Lindau Harbor is formed by the natural contour of the island itself. A breakwater across the entrance to the harbor guards the opening with a lion on one side and a small lighthouse on the other. Lindau still retains much of the atmosphere of the Middle Ages, but nowadays it's primarily sailing, speedboat racing, fishing, and of course swimming. There's nothing like Lake Constance for delightful bathing. Now we're getting into the stunning scenery of the Bavarian Alps. Bavaria has lots of old towns with fascinating histories. One of these is the old mountain town of Füssen. From time immemorial, it has stood guard at the gateway to the pass of the Alps. Its old buildings and cobbled streets and its ancient village square have changed very little for hundreds of years. Nearby, on the steep hills overlooking the town, are the two royal Bavarian castles. The Romanesque Neuschwanstein of King Ludwig II, patron of Richard Wagner, and the castle of Hohenschwangau. High above sea level lies Oberammergau. Here, every 10 years, the world-famous Passion Play is performed in accordance with a vow made by Oberammergau's inhabitants 300 years ago while the Black Death was raging. All the players are villagers who prepare themselves for their parts years in advance, so that this picturesque town, with its unusual carved and painted Bavarian houses, might almost be a scene from the Bible, except, of course, for the traffic. In the mountains is the Hotel Alois Lang, owned by Lang himself. He has chosen a lovely setting for the place that bears his name, and one that will surely be visited for many years to come. Alois Lang is the man who, until recently, played the part of Christ in the Passion Plays. Now you see a wide valley framed by impressive giant mountain ranges. This is a fine winter sports area of which Garmisch-Partenkirchen is the heart and the site of the 1936 Winter Olympics. The highest of these mountains is the Zugspitze. It's more than 9,000 feet high. A cogwheel railroad takes you up 8,400 feet, and from there an elevator will take you up another 950 feet to the Schneeferner Cup, where there is skiing until late summer. You haven't really seen Bavaria unless you've been to Berchtesgaden, so you might try the boat trip on the Königssee. This is an alpine lake fed by Germany's only glacier and surrounded by rugged mountain peaks towering thousands of feet above you. On the way, as the countryside flattens out near the water, the boat passes the beautiful St. Bartholomew Chapels. A few miles from Lake Königssee, you come to Berchtesgaden. Bedded between alpine mountains, the ancient town of Berchtesgaden lies at the foot of the seven-peaked Watzmann Mountain. As in all southern Bavaria, the women still wear their traditional dress, and the men their buckskin shorts or lederhosen. Nearby to Berchtesgaden is Bad Reichenahll, well known for winter sports and one of Germany's finest health resorts. Mount Staufen looms in the background. And again, it's festival season with feasting and dancing and posing for pictures for tourists. The old folk dances are still cultivated, and here you see them dancing the comical Schuhplattler. Well, time was getting a bit short for me, so I had to be off on my way to Munich to catch a brief glimpse of the Oktober Festival and perhaps the city itself before leaving for the airport. The festival originated in a simple, traditional farmer's fair. Today, it's a gay and popular celebration attracting people from all over the country. I was too busy taking in the sights to do much shooting, so you'll have to take my word for it that there's more to this than buying balloon rides and wild rides through the sky. Whole oxen are barbecued in spits over fires, and you can actually choose your own steak off the fire. In the beer halls, you are served quart-sized earthen beer mugs filled with that strong, tangy Wiesen beer, drawn straight from the barrel. Well, this isn't the sort of thing you will want to leave in a hurry, but I had to. I didn't have time to see much of Munich itself, just brief glimpses on the way to the airport, including a quick look at the city hall. Well, that's Germany as I saw it. I know there's a lot I missed. The great cities of Bremen, Berlin, Frankfurt, Stuttgart, Nuremberg, Hanover. I'd like to have visited Heidelberg, seen more of Munich and Cologne, spent more time visiting famous landmarks, seeing the great cathedrals and art centers, but at least I saw some of picturesque Germany, enough to make me want to return. And when I do, it'll certainly be by Scandinavian Airlines.